Okay, ready for this? We're going deep on a research paper about climbing. And get this, how it might actually help with depression.
Really?
Yeah. This paper, it was published just last year, so it's all new research.
Wow.
And it even looks at how the cerebellum, the part of the brain we usually think of for balance,
Right.
could actually play a role in all this.
Huh. So it's not just the usual exercise is good for
Oh,
you.
exactly. It goes way deeper than that. It's looking at the mental and neurological effects, connecting climbing to, well,
To something that affects so many people, right?
it's huge. Like,
Yeah.
the paper starts with these World Health Organization stats that are pretty startling.
Yeah.
Did you know that depression affects almost 4% of the entire world's population?
Globally. Wow, I didn't realize it was that widespread.
Yeah. And it's not just, feeling a little down. It's a leading cause of disability.
Worldwide. Yeah, it's serious.
Plus, and the paper makes this really clear, depression can have some serious consequences for your physical health, too.
Oh, absolutely.
It increases risks for things like, heart disease and diabetes.
So it's all connected.
It really is. Okay, so we're talking about a serious issue here. And this research is suggesting that climbing could be a part of the solution.
Interesting.
Now, I have to admit, I always get the different types of climbing mixed up.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us like a quick rundown?
Sure. So you've got sport climbing, where you're climbing ropes with pre-placed bolts for protection.
Okay.
Then there's traditional climbing, which is more about placing your own protection as you go.
So a little more adventurous.
A little more adventurous, yeah. And then you've got bouldering, which focuses on shorter, more technical climbs close to the ground, usually without rope.
Okay, so that's like the intense, yeah, problem solving, like sprint
Exactly.
of the climbing world.
Exactly.
And that's what this paper really focuses on. It looks at these studies that looked at bouldering specifically as a therapy for depression.
Okay.
And the results, honestly, they're pretty amazing. Multiple studies showed that bouldering can lead to significant decreases in depression scores.
Hmm.
And these aren't just, climbers saying, oh, I feel better. They use the back depression inventory,
Right.
which is like a well-respected tool for measuring depression.
It's a standard, so the data backs it up.
Yeah.
It's not just anecdotal.
So just climbing around could have a measurable impact on your mood. That's pretty incredible.
It is pretty incredible.
Were the results short-lived, or did they last?
Well, that's what's exciting. Some studies saw those positive effects lasting for a year or more after the bouldering intervention.
Wow.
So it seems like climbing might actually be changing how we regulate emotions, which is, of course, so crucial for dealing with depression.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When you're climbing, you have to be totally focused.
Presence?
Present, yeah.
Yeah.
You're solving problems in the moment.
Right.
You're pushing past challenges.
I can see that. So it forces you to be present, which probably helps break those cycles of negative thoughts that can, really trap you when you're depressed.
Right. You're not dwelling. You're not ruminating.
It's not just mental, though, right?
Right.
The paper talks about actual brain chemistry changes, especially with dopamine. I have to admit, this is the stuff that I love, like how the brain works. So how does climbing boost dopamine? What's going on in there?
Well, when you're climbing, you're constantly learning new moves, new techniques, right?
Right.
And research shows that learning new things can trigger the release of dopamine, which gives you that feeling of reward and satisfaction.
Oh, so our brains are basically rewarding us when figuring out that tricky climb.
Exactly.
No wonder it feels good. But the paper doesn't stop there. It also highlights all the psychological benefits that come with climbing.
Oh, for sure.
Beyond just the chemicals, it talks about things like accomplishment, self-esteem, and even managing fear.
Yeah. Each climb you conquer, it's like proof of your strength and resilience. You're literally pushing your boundaries, seeing what you're capable of.
And I bet that feeling of accomplishment, it spills over into other parts of life,
Right.
giving you more confidence to tackle whatever comes your way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got emotion regulation, dopamine boosts, and this sense of accomplishment.
Hmm.
But then the paper takes this turn. It starts talking about the cerebellum.
What?
That seemed out of left field to me.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that was just about balance and coordination, but the paper suggests it could actually be involved in emotional memory processing, too.
Really?
Yeah. Studies have found structural changes in the cerebellums of people with depression, particularly in areas linked to emotional memory. There's even research showing that learning new motor skills, like, the ones you use in climbing, can actually change the cerebellum.
Hold on. So you're saying that climbing could potentially help rewire those emotional pathways in the brain, contributing to improvements in depression?
It's a possibility. Researchers are still exploring it. But what's even more interesting is that climbing isn't just a solo activity. The paper highlights the social aspects, which can be incredibly helpful for people dealing with depression.
Right, because you need that teamwork and trust, that support, and that can create a sense of belonging.
Absolutely.
Which is so important.
Especially when you're struggling. You're literally relying on each other.
Facing challenges together.
Exactly. And those bouldering therapy groups that the paper mentions, they can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
They offer a safe and supportive space where people can connect with others who understand what they're going through, break down that feeling of isolation.
It's not just you and the wall, then. It's about the community that you build around it.
Exactly.
And speaking of surroundings, we can't forget that climbing, especially outdoors, often takes place in nature.
Of course, nature.
That has to play a role too, right?
Absolutely. Spending time in nature has been shown to reduce stress, improve mood, and even help us think more clearly.
So you're combining the physical and mental challenges of climbing with those calming effects of being out in the fresh air.
Right, like a double dose of feel good.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The global impact of depression, the different types of climbing, and how climbing could actually be like this secret weapon for boosting mood, rewiring our brains, building community. I'm hooked.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. What stands out to you so far?
For me, it's that cerebellum connection. I mean, it really highlights just how complex and how interconnected our brains are,
Right.
and how something as seemingly simple as climbing can actually tap into that complexity.
I'm with you. This whole idea that we can potentially change the structure of our brains through physical activity, it's mind-blowing.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder, what other hidden connections are out there? What other everyday activities might be shaping us in ways we haven't even considered?
Right. That's the beauty of discovery. There's always more to learn. And each new piece of knowledge, it opens up new possibilities for understanding ourselves and the world around us.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to keep climbing this mountain of knowledge.
You too.
Stay with us as we continue this deep dive into the fascinating world of climbing and depression. All right, we're back and ready to keep going with this whole climbing and depression thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Before we took a break, we were talking about how climbing can create this sense of community, right?
Right.
And those benefits of being in nature.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the flip side. Like, does the paper mention any potential downsides to climbing, especially for, someone who's struggling with depression?
It does. Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that while climbing can be incredibly beneficial, it's not a cure-all.
Right.
And the paper points out that some aspects of climbing, like the focus on performance and competition, could actually make anxiety or negative self-talk worse for certain people.
Yeah, I can see that. If you're always comparing yourself to others or dwelling on what you can't do yet, it could kind of undermine the positive aspects.
Exactly.
It's like anything else. It's about finding that healthy balance.
Yeah, approaching climbing with the right mindset is key.
Right.
It should be about personal growth and enjoyment, not just about proving yourself or, chasing external validation.
And maybe that means seeking guidance from more experienced climbers or even talking to a therapist to, develop those healthy coping mechanisms.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The paper also brings up the risk of physical injury.
Of course. Yeah.
Which is always a factor with, any physically demanding activity.
Right.
So it's crucial to prioritize safety, learn proper techniques, and really listen to your body's limits.
Yeah. No need to be a daredevil, right?
Exactly.
Safety first, always. So we've talked about the potential benefits and drawbacks, but how does climbing stack up against other forms of treatment for depression? Like, what does the research say?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And the paper acknowledges that, honestly, more research is needed to fully understand climbing's therapeutic potential.
Right.
But the studies they cite do offer some promising clues. For instance, one study found that bouldering therapy was just as effective as short-term group therapy for depression.
Wow. That's pretty significant.
It is.
So climbing could be a viable alternative, or at least a really valuable complement to traditional talk therapy.
Exactly. And another study found that bouldering therapy helped reduce depressive symptoms, even when they factored in things like whether people were also doing psychotherapy or taking medication, or just, generally more physically active.
So it's not just that, climbers tend to be more active and therefore less depressed.
Right.
There's something about climbing itself that seems to be driving these improvements.
That's the exciting part. We're still unraveling the exact mechanisms at play. But the research suggests that climbing might be tapping into this complex interplay of psychological, neurological, and social factors. It's not just one thing, it's the whole experience.
I love that. It's like a multi-pronged attack on depression.
Yeah.
Engaging the mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly.
But what about the long-term effects?
Yeah.
Do these benefits stick around even after you stop climbing regularly?
Well, that's a great question, and the paper does address that. One study followed up with participants a year after the bouldering intervention and found that the positive effects on depression were still there.
Okay, so it's not just a temporary mood booster. It sounds like climbing could have lasting benefits. Maybe even rewiring those neural pathways for better emotional regulation in the long run.
Right, it's like building mental muscle memory for resilience. The paper also suggests that those social connections formed through climbing could contribute to the long-term benefits, offering ongoing support and encouragement even outside of the climbing gym.
Yeah, it's like having this built-in support system of people who get it, who are cheering you on, both on and off the wall. Okay, we've covered a lot here, from the nitty-gritty research details to the bigger picture of how climbing could fit into a holistic approach to well-being.
Right.
But let's bring it back to our listener. What does all of this mean for someone who might be considering climbing as a way to, manage their mental health?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to remember that climbing is not a substitute for professional help.
Right.
If you're struggling with depression, it's always best to consult with a mental health professional to figure out the best course of treatment for your individual needs.
Yeah, that's a really important point. This isn't about self-diagnosing or ditching professional help. It's about exploring all the options, and finding what works best for you. But if you are looking for an activity that could boost your mood, something that could challenge you both physically and mentally, and maybe even introduce you to a supportive community,
Right.
climbing might be a great option to consider.
I agree. It's a fantastic way to push your boundaries, discover new strengths, and connect with people who share your passion for adventure.
Right.
And even if you're not dealing with depression, climbing can still offer just incredible benefits for your overall well-being.
Of course, yeah. Just the physical benefits alone.
Yeah, right.
Increased strength, flexibility, a good cardio workout.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's not just about the physical stuff. There are those cognitive benefits too, like improved focus,
Yeah.
better problem-solving skills, and that sense of accomplishment
Yes.
when you conquer a challenging climb.
Yes, and let's be honest, it's just plain fun.
Yeah.
Scaling walls, defying gravity.
Yeah.
It's a thrilling and empowering experience that can boost your confidence and make you feel like you can tackle anything.
It's like unleashing your inner superhero. So whether you're looking for a new way to, manage stress, improve your fitness, or just simply challenge yourself in a fun and engaging way, climbing might be just the ticket.
It might be, yeah. And the best part is, it's accessible to almost anyone. With the growing popularity of indoor climbing gyms, you can climb year-round, rain or shine, no matter your experience level.
So no excuses. But before you rush out to find the nearest climbing wall, there's one more part of this deep dive that I'm curious about.
Okay.
We've talked about, the science, the practical benefits of climbing, but I'm curious about the bigger picture. Does the paper touch on any of the cultural or philosophical aspects of climbing? Because it seems like there's something deeper there.
Yeah.
Something beyond just the physical and the mental.
You're right, there is. Climbing has often been seen as a metaphor for life itself. It's a journey filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of triumph. It demands perseverance, problem solving, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. It's like that saying, it is not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves.
I love that. It's about pushing your limits and discovering hidden strengths you never knew you had. It's a process of self-discovery and growth. And I imagine that sense of accomplishment, it can be especially powerful for someone struggling with depression.
Absolutely. It's a tangible reminder that you are capable of achieving difficult things, that you have the resilience to navigate the ups and downs of life.
And it's not just an individual pursuit either, right? Climbing requires teamwork and trust.
Yes.
You're relying on others for support and encouragement.
Exactly. It creates a sense of community and interconnectedness, a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
We need each other to succeed, both on the wall and in life.
We're all in this together, supporting each other, pushing each other to reach new heights. And we can't forget about that breathtaking beauty of nature, which is so often like a backdrop for these climbing adventures.
Yeah.
That connection to the natural world, that has to be a powerful element too, right?
Absolutely. Climbing, it immerses you in the power and wonder of nature. It's a humbling experience that can really shift your perspective and help you appreciate the simpler things in life. It's like nature's therapy.
Right.
Grounding you in the present moment and offering a sense of peace and awe.
So we've got self-discovery, community, connection to nature, some pretty profound stuff for a sport that basically involves clinging to rocks.
Right.
Seems like climbing offers this unique blend of physical, mental, and even spiritual benefits.
It really does. It's more than just a physical activity. It's a journey of self-exploration, a practice in resilience, and a reminder of our interconnectedness with each other and the world around us.
That is inspiring. To think that something as seemingly simple as climbing can have such a profound impact on our lives.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what other hidden depths are out there just waiting to be discovered?
It's a great question to ponder. What other everyday activities might be shaping us in ways we haven't even considered? What unexpected joys and connections might we find if we just approach life with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness?
That's beautiful. So to our listener, we leave you with this. Keep exploring, keep climbing, keep discovering. You never know what amazing insights you might uncover along the way.
Happy climbing.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into climbing and depression. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep reaching for those summits, both literal and metaphorical.